Are you a parent wondering if you're doing right by your kids?
A therapist seeking real-world applications for working with children and their families?
A teacher trying to navigate educating the whole child in today's world?
Then this is the podcast for you.
Hey guys, it's Brigid
And Jenna.
the teacher.
And the therapist.
Hey,
Hey, Brigid. Episode 22.
22.
What are we discussing today?
Ooh, okay. So today we are talking about labeled praise.
Okay.
What it is, how to do it, why to do it, how to do it, or examples of how to do it.
I love that. So what exactly is labeled praise?
So labeled praise is obviously praise that we're giving to children for
That's
accomplishing things. It's labeled. It
That's
is
labeled?
labeled praise.
Okay.
Key qualities are going to be specific, be descriptive,
Mm-hmm.
be enthusiastic. We want to highlight the effort over the outcome.
Okay.
And then we also want to incorporate some nonverbal praise too.
I love that. I love enthusiastic. Can you imagine just being like, great job?
That
Like
was
just
good.
Deadpan your praise. No,
Yeah.
I love labeled praise. I use it all the time with clients. I model it for parents, all the kids, in my life, just outside of work too. And it's actually a very key part of what we call parent-child interaction therapy. They have therapy loves acronyms. And so they have a pride skills, and P stands for praise, labeled praise. Yeah.
Parent-child interaction therapy is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And I wish everyone did. Maybe we'll have to do an episode on that because
Okay.
it is phenomenal. And I recommend it to parents all the time.
Yeah. It can be very helpful.
Yes. Yeah. So how about some examples?
Okay, what's labeled? Ooh, we should do a pop quiz. I say a praise and you tell me if it's labeled or unlabeled.
All right, do it.
Or, our listeners, you can guess at home. Keep track.
Yeah. How many you get?
Mm-hmm. You're saying something like, nice work.
On what? Nice work doing what? That's not very labeled.
Not very
That's not
labeled.
very specific
Not
or
very
descriptive.
specific.
It was minorly enthusiastic, I suppose.
Nice work!
There you go.
Or versus something like, good work using your walking feet.
See, you made it specific.
I made it specific.
What I did was use my walking feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's very labeled. Good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about something like, thanks for helping your brother with his shoes?
Okay. I like that.
Right. So that's one example. We'll
Pretty
see.
specific. Sounded enthusiastic.
Yeah. The other one would be, oh, great. Now it's time to leave. Because we got our shoes on. It's time to leave. But I didn't say that part. I said, okay, it's time to leave.
Yeah, that's not honestly, that doesn't even sound like praise.
Yeah.
It's time to leave. It's just
time to go.
a statement,
Like, hey, let's go.
a command. Yeah.
Great job. All right.
You are so, I'm trying to be enthusiastic.
Okay.
You are so focused on your coloring versus you made a beautiful house.
Oh, now this is interesting.
It's harder. This one's tougher.
Yeah.
Because
those are
that's
both specific.
and descriptive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they were both enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say the difference here is that in the first one, you said you're so focused on your coloring.
Uh-huh.
You're commenting on the effort that I'm putting into it.
Right.
Whereas you made a beautiful house, you're commenting on the outcome of what I've done.
Yep. Yeah. So that one was just a little bit different, because I think we get the idea. Good job, nice work. Those aren't specific. And I think people get that. But the focus on effort is really important too. So, and nonverbals, you guys, obviously, our listeners couldn't see if we used any, but high fives, hugs, hand on the shoulder.
High five.
High five.
There it
Did
is.
you hear it? Fist bumps, anything like that. Body language, clapping, smiling.
Those are all just good ways to form those connections as you're saying what you're saying. You're also physically connecting with the child.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially young children, they don't they need sight. They need sight. They need tactile to be able to receive information, which is why yelling from the other room, come on, hurry up, doesn't work.
And the same thing, shouting from across the room, oh, good job.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not close enough to make that physical contact, high five, whatever, then you're not close enough for them to receive that praise appropriately. This is specifically referring to those young kids.
Yes, like toddlers, preschool.
5 and under-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. I've never thought about it with the praise like that.
Yeah.
I've thought about it with directions and things like that and why kids, quote unquote, don't listen.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's good too.
I would say, yeah, if they're 5 and under, if you can't reach out and touch them while you're talking to them,
they're not hearing you.
You're too far away for that message to be received.
No. So, okay, why, Brigid, is labeled praise so important versus good job, nice work, pal?
Well, first of all, if there's a behavior that we want to continue, we need to name it.
Name it. Highlight the right.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Highlight the right.
I got it from Big Little Feelings on Instagram. Okay. Highlight the right.
Yeah.
So you say what you do want.
Exactly. So that's really the idea. Yeah. We want to be specific and intentional about what we want to see. So like oftentimes for teachers specifically, we're taught to use that in like when we're giving directions or rules. Like we would say, use your walking feet rather than don't run.
Right.
And we're going to say what we want to see.
Right. And actually, like, yes, I mean, I encourage the same thing with the kids in my life, with the parents that I work with, because developmentally until the age of 7, children only hear the last thing that you say. So if you say don't run, what they hear is run. That's what they interpret. Versus like use your walking feet, we need to walk, right? That you're telling them what to do.
Right.
You know, that's why giving directions, especially with kids under 7, it's important to do it that way versus like no or don't. They don't understand no, don't in a sentence.
Right. And something as simple as like if your child's asking for a treat and you say like, you can have your treat after dinner, they're going to be more upset because you said after dinner last. Whereas if you say after dinner, you can have your treat, then they're hearing, I can have my treat.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to take that information.
Right. They're like,
positively.
Right. They're hearing, I can have my treat.
Yes. That's why like the echolalia that you hear of when kids are repeating things that you say.
They repeat like the last word, last syllable usually.
Last few words sometimes.
Yeah. As they get older, my oldest nephew is almost 2, and he will do that. He'll do like the last word that you say. You know, if you're like, I'm getting you water, he'll be like, water.
Right. They repeat the very end because that's what they're focusing on.
Or sometimes even the last syllable.
It's kind of like the idea of what you put out into the universe is what you get back, right? It's almost like karma, but with words that you're saying to children.
Yeah.
What you put out is what you get back.
Yep. Exactly.
So like if we go back into the drawing example, if you say, that's a really nice house you drew, chances are you are going to see a lot of houses show up in your drawings in the future.
I know. I find it so fascinating.
Because that's the part that you praise.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, wow, you put so much detail into your drawing, now that can go across and we're adding detail to all of our drawings, not just our houses.
Yes, exactly.
So it can be applied to more than one thing as well. And that's the way you know if you're praising effort over outcome is if they can take that praise and apply it to a different situation.
Other things, yeah.
So it's not just the house, it's the detail that went into it.
Yes,
so,
definitely.
Also, disclaimer, this does not mean you can never say good job.
Right. That's still great. That's still praise. It's still nice.
Yes. The idea is that when we say things like good job, we want to try to follow it up with a specific praise.
Yeah.
And also, I do want to acknowledge that, like, as a parent, as a teacher, I'm sure as a therapist, we spend a lot of the day, like, with the children in our lives going, Mommy, look at this. Or, Teacher, look what I drew. Or what
I did.
It's a lot. Like, it's a lot of your day.
Like,
and so you're kind of just constantly all day long. Good job. But, like, it drains on you and you almost aren't thinking about it. So I think the rule for me, and I was trying to, like, quantify it. So that's why I did this. But I tried to do, like, 30, 30, 40.
Okay.
So, like, 30% of the time, I'm like, good job. Like that. You know what?
You did nice work. Nice.
Yes. And then another 30% of the time, I try to have, like, something that's a little bit more specific.
Okay.
But not necessarily, like, oh, that was really creative.
Okay, yeah.
Or, oh, you worked really hard on that. Like, something that kind of gets a little more specific. And then that way that leaves, only 40% of the time, or about, like, 8,672 times a day that you have to come up with something specific.
Very specific.
Yes. So, but it doesn't have to be perfect. The point is just try to be intentional about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, there's going to be times when you're just like, I'm cooking dinner and I can't come and praise you. Like, good job. And that's okay too.
I love it. Yeah, better than like ignoring.
Right.
If that's the option,
right.
then
give them something. The point is when you can, when you have that ability to be focused in on what you're doing, getting specific and being intentional about it is going to be what we want.
Absolutely.
There's also some schools of thought that advocate for less external praise for kids.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the idea behind it is like so that they have more internal motivation and it's not like they're not doing things for other people, right? They're not trying to people please. Kind of like we went actually, and I use this as in my example, this word of like proud, but we talked about that way back of saying like, are you proud of yourself?
I think episode 1 we talked
about that. Was it 1? Okay, 1 or 2 or something like that, yeah. And so, yeah, instilling that so it's more like internal. But that's why focusing on the effort over the outcome is so big. For me, it's so big for building kids' self-esteem. So saying something like, I'm so proud of you for getting an A, inadvertently adds pressure that like, oh, my parents are only proud of me if I get an A. If
for the A
have
I got.
to get an A or my parents won't be happy, they won't be proud of me. Versus like, hey, I know you studied really hard for that test. Or you put in, or like as the teacher, like you were focusing really well on your test. Nice job double checking your work, things like that. Because A, you're focusing on more of what you want to see. We want you to study for your test. We want you to, go over your answers. And B, you're focusing on like the life skills that you want the kids, the child, the teenager to learn. And like you said, that's applicable to more situations. And that's more ideal, that they learn that studying and working hard is important more so than like, I got an A.
Right. Because you got an A can be applied to your schooling, but it can't really be applied elsewhere in your life.
To anything else, yeah.
Whereas like buckling down and doing your studying and working hard and focusing.
It can help you in work. It can help you in relationships. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I think, yes, I understand the idea of like that praise should come from the children themselves. But like to me, I think you have to be the one to initiate it. And that's why I think labeled praise is so important, because that's, probably the best way to go about doing that.
For sure. Yeah. And then, that's how like kids then learn to like be proud of themselves. It's like, wow, yeah, I did. Like they start to recognize I worked really hard on this. Like I saw this video earlier where the mom and I think she was like 3 were baking and the girl was like stirring like brownie mix with a whisk. And the mom like took it and was like, here, I want to show you something. And the girl started getting like kind of upset and was like, what are you doing? Like, and the mom was like, see, I want it. And she was like hitting it on the side of the bowl. She was like, I want that out of the middle. She was showing how you get like some of the batter that's stuck in the whisk out. Sorry. And then like the mom was kind of in the background of the video. She was like getting another ingredient. And the girl was like, I'm going to get this out of the middle for you. And then her mom's like, yeah, good job. Like you learned. And she did it again. And she was like, I learned.
Aww.
And mom's like, yeah, like you learned. You learned how to do it. You learned what I was looking for. So I thought that was like so cute.
Yeah, that she like gave her that example of
and then she felt proud of like, I learned how to do this. Like I remembered.
I think kids do feel proud from a very young age. And a lot of the time it does come from like pleasing the adults in their lives.
Because we show we're excited.
Yes. And that's not a bad thing for them to crave that.
Yeah.
We all crave approval from people around us.
And the people we like care about and are connected with.
It doesn't necessarily make us people pleasers, but it feels good when you've done something and your spouse or your parent or your friend is like, hey, good job. Hey, thanks for doing that. Hey, whatever it is.
That was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, like we do kind of rely on that somewhat.
Yeah, totally.
It feels good.
And then that's how you like,
good when someone praises you.
Right. And then that's how you like instill it in yourself, So that's another example I think of is like when you're potty training. Like, you get so excited when they go in the potty. And then they're like, oh, I want to do this more because like my parents are pumped about this. You know?
Like over the top dance parties.
Yeah. Like this is amazing that you just peed in the potty. And that's oftentimes how children learn because they're like, oh, wait, I want this excitement. I want this reaction.
And this is not a skill that is like specific to children. I think about like in an employment situation, if you're in management and you want your employees to be doing X, Y, Z, you say, thank you for getting whatever completed by the due date.
Right.
Instead of just, hey, thanks. You know, like being specific and intentional.
Yeah.
Even when you're communicating with adults,
I want you to do
is important.
This more often.
Especially because as workers, oftentimes we do feel like the effort that you make isn't seen.
Right.
Right. And so that's just another example of how we do crave that external approval.
And when someone sees it, like we take note.
Yeah. Wow. And so, now, I mean, it's so true. If someone's like, hey, I noticed that you organized the file room the other day. Thanks so much for doing that.
Right.
And now I want to organize the file room.
Right.
Because
somebody noticed.
It made you happier.
Right.
And it's the same. It's the same with kids and adults and
totally.
And in relationships. Like I know even just working on this podcast, like saying, hey, thanks for editing that or making the thing.
Sure. Like you did the editing this week or whatever.
Yeah. Like you can show how you appreciate someone's effort and being specific about that.
And you're showing that like you're aware of their effort.
Right.
You know, that's something I talk a lot about with parents, a lot of times with women or with moms of like, they just feel so unappreciated because they feel like people don't realize how much goes into these things. So when people appreciate it, like, yeah, that's really nice.
And I think sometimes we take it for granted in that, like, yeah, I do appreciate it. And why do I need to? Of
course I do. Yeah.
Right. I don't need to go into that. But it's worth it. Be intentional. Be specific. What are you appreciating? What are you praising?
Yep.
Because you can never be too intentional and specific about the words that you choose to build someone up.
Right. For kids, adults, everyone.
Across the board.
We all need praise.
For sure.
We're built to like live in relationships. So
yes. And we want positive relationships, and that's going to involve praise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
great job on this episode.
Yeah. And
Brigid.
Thanks to you listeners for tuning in. We appreciate you.
Yes, so much.
See you next week.
Bye.